In the Burrows, a retirement community, Grace makes a video call to her husband, Edward, who is admitted to the mansion. He tells her that the owl is in the walls before the nurses make him hang up the phone. That night, a creature with thin legs attacks Grace in her home. She runs outside and calls for help, but arms pull her back inside. Later, Sam Cooper is being driven to the Burrows by his daughter Claire and his grandchildren. He will occupy the house where Grace lived. Then, Supervisor K welcomes him and introduces Seraphine, an always active virtual assistant. Having no patience for technology, Sam tosses the device aside. Actually, the one who wanted to move there was his late wife, Lily. But the contract ties Sam to the place. After saying goodbye to his family, he is approached by his neighbor Jack. The two drink beer, and Jack invites him to a welcome barbecue. But Sam shows no interest in socializing. In the morning, he is awakened from a dream about Lily by the annoying sound of a revving car. Judy and Art live next door. Being a former journalist, Judy takes the opportunity to snoop and gather information about the new neighbor. Trying to resolve his legal situation, Sam goes to the administration to demand a meeting with Blaine Shaw, the CEO of the company. While the receptionist tries to schedule an appointment, the background music triggers a painful memory. He and Lily dancing seconds before she suffers a sudden illness and faints. At the community center, an elderly lady named Renee calls security, claiming that her rose quartz was stolen. But Hank, the head of security, does not take her seriously, treating her like a confused old woman. The next day, when Renee's car wakes Sam up again, he grabs his tools and fixes the noisy engine. Renee tries to thank him, but he replies coldly, making the neighbors scold him for being a grumpy old man. Returning home, Sam gets a scare. Edward is broken into the place, holding a knife and banging against the walls. The old man mutters about the so-called owl and, in a sudden outburst, attacks Sam, who screams for help. And soon the nurses arrive to restrain and take Edward away. Hank appears at the scene and warns that the place does not have an official police force, since it is not legally a city. When Sam insists on calling the local sheriff, the security guard takes him directly to the mansion to speak with the CEO. There, Blaine Shaw personally helps a patient feed herself. He apologizes for the incident and, knowing of Sam's dissatisfaction, offers to break the contract provided the authorities are not involved. Blaine also takes Sam to see Edward, who, now medicated, offers sincere apologies for the attack. Handing over the termination paperwork, the CEO advises the resident to consider staying, suggesting that running away might be the loneliest option. Reflecting on the words, Sam stops by Jack's house and accepts the invitation to the barbecue, deciding to give the community a chance. At the party, he is formally introduced to Judy, Art, and Wally, also noticing Renee's presence. During the event, he notices Jax looks toward Judy, giving away his friend's romantic interest. The pleasant atmosphere is broken when Judy starts choking. Jack quickly helps her and she recovers, but the scare triggers the trauma of losing Lily in Sam's mind once again. Walking back home, he vents to Jack about how the world keeps spinning even after his wife's departure. Jack offers comfort, assuring him that the Burrows might be the ideal place to start living again. That night, Sam calls Blaine and leaves a message confirming he decided to stay. He finally unpacks his bags and settles in, but the peace is short-lived. In the middle of the night, he is awakened by a medical alert beep coming from his friend's house. Since the neighbor doesn't answer the door, Sam breaks it down. In the bedroom, the health monitor beeps desperately, while a strange creature with spider legs is leaning over Jack, sucking something directly out of his face. Noticing Sam's presence, the monster lunges to attack him, but quickly retreats and escapes. Jack's body is taken away by paramedics while a medical officer examines Sam at the scene. Upon reporting that he saw some kind of animal attacking his friend, the response he receives is an ironic piece of advice to seek a hospital and have his own head examined. In the morning, Claire calls to see how her father is doing. The conversation about Edward's outburst makes Sam remember the old man's murmurs about the owl on the walls. In the house next door, Art prepares breakfast for Judy, but she is paralyzed by the pain of the loss. He leaves with the excuse of playing golf, but drives outside the community limits. In another part of town, a group of women organizes the deceased memorial. During the conversation, Renee discovers an intriguing pattern. Other residents have also had objects stolen from their rooms, such as chess pieces and coasters. At the local clinic, Wally undergoes a checkup and insists on alternative treatments for his prostate cancer. But the doctor reminds him that, being from the medical field himself, he knows very well that these methods are ineffective. Renee and her friends go to the security office to demand action. The security guard agrees to register the thefts on one unusual condition: that Renee agrees to go out to dinner with him. Restless, Sam goes to the mansion to visit Edward and questions him about the delusion from the night before. The old man claims to have caught an owl and gives a cryptic hint, saying that the key is in the light. Far from there, Art arrives at a ruined shack where he cultivates mushrooms and feeds a pet raven. Talking to himself with the bird, he vents that he already knew about the affair between Jack and his wife, but kept silent out of fear of being abandoned. Accompanying Renee in choosing the coffin, Wally confesses to being exhausted from the battery of tests and decides he wants to live out the time he is left with cocktails and chaos, giving up on waiting for miracles. Seeking comfort, Judy goes to Jack's house and clings to one of his shirts. There she finds Sam's hammer and decides to return it. She asks if her friend passed away in peace, but Sam's vague and evasive answers make her suspicious. As soon as the neighbor leaves, Sam takes apart all the light fixtures in his house, hunting for the clue left by Edward. The search ends in the bathroom, where he finally finds a key hidden inside a light socket. The object belongs to a local storage unit. At the administration, the head of security, Hank, orders Paz to close the theft case, claiming that a quartz thief was arrested in the neighboring town. Meeting with Renee, Paz passes the message along, but reveals he investigated on his own and discovered his boss's lie. The police did not apprehend any quartz thief. Joining forces, the security guard and the resident install hidden cameras to catch the real culprit. During the work, they connect upon discovering that he is a drummer and she is a former music manager. Back at the isolated shed, Art hears a mysterious howl echo through the area. His raven goes crazy, flapping its wings uncontrollably until it crashes into the structure and dies. The bizarre phenomenon escalates quickly. An entire flock of birds crosses the sky and dives in a direct suicide attack against the ground. With the key in hand, Sam goes to the community storage and unlocks the corresponding unit. Inside the dusty space, he breaks open a wooden chest and finds a stuffed owl. He takes the animal home, dismissing Supervisor K, who is waiting at the door to check on his well-being. While watching television, his attention is captured by a mysterious blue glow emanating near the kitchen. At the community center, Jack's memorial begins with a speech by CEO Blaine. Sam enters the hall discreetly and pulls Wally aside, demanding that his friend accompany him. The murmuring irritates Judy. With her nerves on edge, shouts for silence. Embarrassed for causing a scene at the wake, she leaves the event. On her way out, she crosses paths with Annalise, Blaine's wife, and the two share the suffocating feeling of living in the community. Upon arriving home, Judy tries to vent to her husband, but Art is paralyzed and hypnotized by the bizarre incident with the birds, completely ignoring his wife's grief. At the same time, Sam takes Wally to his house to prove he is not crazy. He scrapes a sample of the creature's blood that had gotten stuck to the head of his hammer during the attack the previous night and places it on a spoon. Positioning the metal right in front of the turned-on television screen, the reaction happens. In a few minutes, the goo begins to glow and writhe on its own. The substance floats in the air and suddenly explodes, flooding the living room with tiny, pulsating dots of blue light. Judy notices the mysterious blue glow emanating from Sam's house. Peeking through the window, she spots her neighbor and Wally carefully putting the hammer inside a plastic bag. The next day, she catches Wally walking to Sam's house, carrying a box full of equipment, and questions him about the two of them spending so much time together lately. He gives a vague excuse about helping his friend assemble some furniture and hurries off. Away from prying eyes, the two work to set up a high-precision laboratory analysis machine. The secret work is interrupted by the arrival of Neil, Sam's son-in-law, who asks for one of his late mother-in-law's old records. Sam replies dryly that he hasn't found it yet, and when Neil tries to offer a book on grief, he refuses and tries to dismiss him quickly. Before leaving, the young man reminds him that his daughter is also suffering from the loss of her mother. After running the tests on the machine, Wally discovers an anomaly. The collected genetic material has a cellular structure inverted in relation to all living beings on the planet. The scientific proof confirms that Sam was not hallucinating. The problem is that the test consumed all the blood left on the hammer. To get more evidence and understand what the creature was sucking from Jack's mouth, the doctor suggests breaking into the local funeral home to perform a clandestine autopsy on their friend's body. In the isolated areas of the desert, Art buries his pet raven while venting to himself about his relentless search for signs of the divine and for proof that there is something beyond ordinary life. As night falls, Sam and Wally break the padlock and break into the funeral home. Walking among the coffins, Sam gets distracted by a quick hallucination, seeing his wife's name on a funeral wreath. The real scare comes next when Judy jumps from the shadows, blocking their path. Noticing the suspicious activity, she threatens to pull the fire alarm if the two don't reveal what they know. Cornered, they confess that Jack did not die of natural causes and that the answers are in his body. In another part of the community, Renee receives an alert on her cell phone coming from the hidden security cameras. She calls pause and runs to the community center. Following strange noises in the place, she finds a box full of quartz stones overturned on the floor. The security guard arrives at the same instant, and the two check the recordings. The image shows a bizarre distortion right in the fraction of a second the object is knocked over. Trying to remain rational, Paz blames the poor camera quality for the blur. In the embalming room, Judy and Sam step aside into the corner while Wally begins the improvised autopsy. Trying to relieve the tension, she vents about her past with art. She explains that their marriage was built in the counterculture era, with freedom to get involved with other people, provided they respected the one rule: never fall in love. But feelings got out of control, and she ended up falling in love with Jack. The silence is broken when Wally calls them. Back to the table. The doctor exposes precise puncture marks at the back of the corpse's throat. The holes create a direct path to the base of the brain, indicating that the creature was feeding from inside Jack's head. At the community center, the mood between Renee and Paz becomes more intimate. She shares how her ex-husband stole all the money from the old company they managed, while the security guard explains that he had to take his current job to pay for his sister's surgery. While the two snuggle, head of security Hank inspects the supply room alone, using a peculiar technological device. He scans the overturned quartz box and captures an invisible fingerprint. Acting with naturalness in front of the strange equipment, he receives a radio warning notifying him about intruders at the funeral home. Returning to the desert, Art walks, stunned, along a trail formed by the bird's remains. The trail guides him to an old wooden structure with a door banging against the wind. Driven by curiosity, he decides to enter. Alarmed by the discovery on the corpse, Wally decides to examine Judy's and Sam's mouths and is shocked when he identifies the same puncture marks at the back of both of their throats, confirming that the creature had also been feeding on them without them noticing. The despair is interrupted by the lights of Hank's patrol car approaching. Thinking fast, Judy and Wally hide while Sam turns himself in on purpose, inventing the excuse that he only broke into the place to say goodbye to his friend in peace. Far from there, the strange creature sneaks into Renee's house and leans over her, sucking her vital energy while the woman sleeps peacefully next to Paz. At the same time, Art crosses the old shed and discovers a hidden passage that leads to a bioluminescent tree, glowing with an otherworldly light. Fascinated, he picks an orange-skinned fruit covered in a shiny powder. Upon touching the substance, a cut on his hand heals in a few seconds. Amazed by the miracle, he takes a bite of the fruit. The next day, Art walks into a convenience store to buy water. He notices that he no longer needs his glasses or hearing aid, and his hair has lost its gray tone. The new vitality is tested right away when a mugger tries to rob the cashier, and Art easily takes him down. Meanwhile, at the administration, Sam faces the consequences of breaking into the funeral home. CEO Blaine Shaw receives him, and when Sam insists that a creature killed Jack, Blaine uses a distorted version of the boy who cried wolf fable, advising him to leave the wolf alone to live a long life in the community. The warning becomes a veiled threat when Blaine announces that Edward died in his sleep, mentioning that he wouldn't stop talking about monsters. At Renee's house, Paz tries to schedule a public date. Worried about the disapproving looks regarding their age difference, she hesitates. The security guard interprets the refusal as a sign that she is ashamed of him and leaves furiously, slamming the door. Sam returns home and shares his suspicions with Judy and Wally, believing that Blaine is covering up the truth and probably eliminated Edward. Unable to turn to the authorities, he decides that they must eliminate the creature themselves. Meanwhile, Art enjoys the renewed energy from the magic fruit, dividing his time between golf, swimming, and dancing. Meanwhile, the three try to figure out how to capture the target. Wally deduces that the creature feeds on cerebrospinal fluid and suggests using it as bait. In practice, this means the doctor must use a needle to painfully extract the fluid straight from Sam's spine. In the security office, Hank harshly scolds two bickering neighbors. Blaine intervenes, orders the boss to treat the residents with more kindness, and takes him downstairs, leaving Paz at the counter. Restless from the fight, Renee seeks out Wally for advice, and he suggests she adapt to the young man's different ways. Meanwhile, Sam and Judy drive to Claire's house. The goal is to break into the shed, where Sam used to fix old televisions with his daughter. Since the cathode ray tubes seem to interfere with the biology of the monster's blood, he plans to turn them into weapons. During the search, he confesses to Judy that he has been having visions of Lily since he arrived. At that moment, Claire catches the two in the shed and is hurt for being ignored while her father investigates the mystery. She reminds him that she also lost her mother and storms out, slamming the door. At home, Renee reviews the camera footage and focuses on Hank's face. She does a reverse search and finds a newspaper article from 1975 about the death of prison warden Milton Hauser. Sam and Judy return to the house, where Wally sets up a mannequin on the bed and turns on a humidifier, dispersing the spinal fluid through the room. Sam positions the televisions and uses a magnet to focus the radiation from the tubes into a narrow beam, creating an improvised energy cannon. At the same time, Renee visits Tim, Milton Hauser's son. The young man describes his father as a sadistic man who smiled when hurting inmates and who burned to death in a car accident. Flipping through family albums, Renee freezes upon seeing an old photo of Milton side by side with Blaine. Art's charm collapses when he finds Jack's shirt in his wife's closet. He goes to a bar and drowns his sorrows with Annalise, venting about Judy's rejection. Blaine's wife suggests he take revenge, but the moment is interrupted. Art begins to convulse and runs to the bathroom, rapidly losing the youth the fruit gave him. Annalise follows him and watches coldly as he passes out on the floor, begging for help to no avail. In the security office, Paz waits for Blaine to leave and decides to explore the basement. He hears Hank mutter the name Scar, possibly referring to the creature, using the keys stolen from his boss's office. Paz unlocks the restricted door and is shocked by what he sees. But Hank appears from behind and hits him with a stun gun, knocking the security guard down. In the house sealed by Judy, the noises begin. She draws her gun and advances through the rooms. The creature appears on top of a cabinet. Sam activates the laser from the TVs, but the equipment fails. Without hesitation, Judy shoots. The shot hits the target, but the wounded monster quickly escapes, slipping through the oven in the kitchen. Opening the appliance door, the trio discovers a secret hatch that leads straight to a tunnel in the basement. Sam, Judy, and Wally climb down through the secret passage in the oven, dropping into a network of wide tunnels that branch out, connecting the basement of every house in the community. Wasting no time, they decide to follow the fresh blood trail of the wounded creature. Far from there, Blaine has a nightmare about an aged version of Annalise using crutches and pointing to her own young corpse, which suffers visual distortions like a computer system glitch. He wakes up startled, but finds his wife sleeping peacefully by his side. To start the day, he mixes a mysterious golden liquid into his juice. On his way out, he receives a call from Hank reporting the situation with Paz. The head of security demands a raise for the recent problems, but Blaine is unyielding, reminding him that the deal was sealed and cannot be altered. Frustrated, Hank gives in and takes a sip from a small flask containing the same golden liquid, which energizes him instantly. Checking Renee's cell phone, he discovers that the resident found the old photo of Milton and Blaine together. At the hospital, Art wakes up and finds Annalise watching. Over his bed, she presses him about his rapid change in appearance and wants to know what he found in the desert. But he evades the question, saying he just wants to go home. As soon as she leaves, he checks his pockets and breathes a sigh of relief upon finding the seed of the magic fruit tucked away. Meanwhile, Hank breaks into Renee's house. She tries to escape, but is overpowered with brute force and loses consciousness. In the tunnels, the trio loses the blood trail. Searching the area, Sam sees a puzzle piece on the ground, identical to the ones from his memories of Lily's death. The piece suffers the same bizarre visual glitch right before his eyes. Trusting the vision, he tells the others he found the right path. At the mansion, Blaine calls Claire for a meeting and plants seeds of doubt in her head, insinuating that Sam is getting seriously ill and delusional in order to isolate the resident from his own family. Far beyond the community limits, Renee wakes up trapped in the trunk of her own car, side by side with Paz. While Hank drives, the two begin to scream for help. The security guard stops the vehicle and connects a hose to the exhaust pipe, directing the toxic gas straight into the trunk. In the basement, the trio finally finds a monster that is agonizingly injured. Wally hesitates, thinking about trying to save it for study, but Judy wastes no time. She pulls the trigger right at the target's head. Looking closely, Sam realizes that was not the same creature that attacked Jack. A flood of noises echoes through the tunnels, confirming that an entire pack is coming after them. While running for their lives, Sam has visions of Lily acting agitated, visually glitching near the down body. Back in the desert, Art goes after the magic tree, but is shocked to find it completely dead and dried up. Annalise is already there waiting for him. She reveals that the lands housed a bankrupt mining company until she and her husband bought the place in the 40s. Taking on an impossible age, her eyes emit an unnatural glow and her voice becomes raspy. She demands to know how he got the youthful energy. Cornered, Art tells her about the fruit and shows the seed. Annalise grabs it and swallows it whole, but immediately vomits a black liquid, and her face distorts into an old and demonic shape. Frustrated that he hadn't found a real solution, she lunges to attack him, forcing Art to flee through the tunnels. Waking up from a gas, Renee discovers that Hank forged the scene on the edge of a cliff, tying her hands to the steering wheel to simulate a fatal car accident between lovers. Before he finishes setting up the scene, she manages to loosen the rope and uses the security guard's own stun gun against him. Renee and Paz jump from the moving vehicle fractions of a second before the car accelerates with Hank and plummets straight into the precipice, lost and trying to escape. Through the basement, Art is attacked by Annalise. His desperate screams echo to Judy, Wally, and Sam, who run in his direction and catch the woman on top of him. Judy shoots, but the bullet has no effect on her. Outnumbered, Annalise retreats and flees into the shadows. The four manage to get out and take Art's car toward the city. On the way, they find Renee and Paz on the road and rescue them. At the bottom of the cliff, someone finds the torn body of Hank, who opens his eyes, exhibiting the same abnormal glow. Safe in a diner, the group pieces together the mystery. Paz reports that The security basement is a captivity full of caged monsters. The group deduces that Blaine and his inner circle feed on the monster's energy, while the creatures suck the vitality from the elderly residents. But something doesn't add up in the theory. Pa saw Hank drinking a golden liquid while the blood of the creature was blue and sticky. Furthermore, Wally urgently needs his medication. Pa's volunteers to go back to the community to get it, arguing that with Hank out of the picture, no one knows about his involvement in the escape. Far from there, Annalise returns to the mansion in a decrepit and weakened state. Blaine submerges her in a bathtub full of the golden liquid and swears to punish everyone who hurt her. In the back of the diner, Art finally confronts Judy, letting her know he always knew about her affair with Jack. The mood gets heavy, but the conversation is cut short when the group steps out of the diner and is faced with a convoy of black cars blocking the street at high speed. Blaine and his security guards have found them. The group is escorted to the mansion under heavy surveillance. Separating Wally from the rest, Blaine offers a deal to the rest of the group. They will be able to resume their routines provided they abandon the hunt, maintain absolute secrecy, and stay in the burrows. In exchange, the creatures will stop feeding on them. The final price is that Wally will start working directly for the inner circle in the basement. Left with no choice, the doctor convinces his friends to accept the terms. 3 days later, Seraphine assistant terminals are installed in every house, and the residents are forced to go about their lives normally, but now wearing electronic tracking ankle monitors. On his first day in the new lab, Wally is introduced to the team and recognizes Dr. Mansour, his former personal doctor. Annalise offers a glass of the mysterious golden liquid, and Blaine guarantees the substance will cure his cancer and stop his aging forever. Wally refuses at first, but the psychological pressure of the group chanting his name in a chorus breaks him. He gives in and drinks. Meanwhile, Sam rebels. He surrounds the oven hatch with his televisions to block any invasion. Suddenly, the static on one of the screens turns into a clear image of Lily, knocking on the glass and begging for help. Desperate, he runs out to the street and bumps into Art. Sam considers walking across the desert on foot to the diner to call for help, but the neighbor advises him to keep his head down and not take the risk. In the underground complex, Wally discovers with the new head of security, Ernest, that the employees call the creatures pups, and that Scar was the aggressive specimen that escaped some time ago. Blaine then takes him to meet the main patient, whom they call Mother. Meanwhile, Paz bypasses the surveillance and secretly meets with Renee, giving her a two-way radio. He reveals an escape plan during the community's 75th anniversary party. Isolated at home, Sam takes apart old devices and manages to clone the frequency of his electronic ankle monitor, cutting the tracker without triggering the security alarm. At night, Wally finds Renee waiting in his house and reveals the truth. Years ago, Blaine found an egg in the basement that hatched the mother. Drinking her filtered blood granted immortality to the inner circle. However, the creature and her pups needed a constant flow of human cerebrospinal fluid to survive, which motivated the founding of the burrows as a feeding ground disguised as a nursing home. Dazzled by the discovery's potential to eradicate diseases in the world, he refuses to escape, preferring to continue the research. In the house next door, Judy finally admits to having fallen in love with Jack, but tries to argue that this doesn't need to destroy their future. But Art declares that the breach of trust has already changed everything. Following the plan, Renee summons the group to Jack's house at midnight. Without Sam and Art, only she, Judy, and Paz show up. Renee changes the rules of the game. Instead of just fleeing, she wants to use the distraction of the anniversary party to infiltrate the basement and eliminate the mother, destroying Blaine's golden goose once and for all. Meanwhile, Sam manages to cross the miles of desert and arrives at the roadside diner. He uses the public phone and begs Claire to come rescue him. She actually shows up, but drives straight back to the community, handing her own father over to Blaine. Shocked by the betrayal, Sam suppresses the pain and just murmurs to his daughter that it's all right. The next morning, Art catches Claire and Neil near Sam's house. They let him know they had to commit her father to the mansion's intensive care. This is the last straw that motivates Art to join Judy and the rebellion for good. In the basement, Wally closely watches as one of the creatures inserts an appendage into a machine. The liquid runs through a series of filtering pipes, turns golden, and is injected directly into the body of a deformed old woman. During the preparations for the 75th anniversary party, Annalise panics upon realizing that the bullet wound on her body is not healing with the creature's blood. Blaine calms her down, promising that Wally will ensure the mother's survival and everyone's cure. In the care mansion, Sam wakes up disoriented after 3 days of being sedated. The director informs him that Blaine unleashed the pups to suck his energy as punishment for breaking the contract. Far from there, Paz evades surveillance, piles the group into his car, and cuts everyone's electronic ankle monitors to free them from tracking. In the underground lab, Wally has an epiphany. The excess of human cerebrospinal fluid consumed by the mother forced the creature to take on an almost human form, revealing that the deformed old woman seen in the machines is her. He and Dr. Mansour race against the clock to find a cure for the rapid cellular degeneration of the specimen. Meanwhile, Supervisor Kay goes to Sam's house and surprises Claire, investigating her father's gadgets. She turns on the improvised particle accelerator with the TVs, and the radiation affects Kate instantly. The supervisor's body begins to glitch and deform. As soon as Claire turns off the screens, Kay returns to normal, but flees in a hurry and visibly weakened. In the common area of the mansion, the residents celebrate with cake. An inmate whispers to Sam that Edward used to escape the place with the help of the Duchess. Sam demands to meet her and is taken to a bedridden catatonic patient, but is warned that the only way to make her speak is by offering a cigarette. In the basement, Wally discovers that mixing the blood of the pups with that of the mother stimulates cell regeneration. Blaine and Annalise demand immediate application, but Mansour warns that they need more tests. Needing a distraction to act, Sam takes the microphone of the karaoke machine and sings Bruce Springsteen loud and clear, riling up the elderly residents. In the middle of the chaos in the hall, he breaks into the director's office looking for the cigarette. Upon being caught, he reacts quickly and plunges a stolen syringe from the fridge into the director's neck, knocking him unconscious to the floor. On the outside, Paz and Art cause a planned commotion to draw the guards away, opening the perfect window for Judy and Renee to break into the mansion. In the patient's room, Sam lights the cigarette for the Duchess. She snaps out of her trance and reveals that the visions of Lily were not hallucinations, but rather the mother trying to communicate telepathically, using the form of loved ones to reach minds fractured by deep grief. Overcome by pain, Sam demands revenge for Jack, but the Duchess warns him that saving the creature is the only path to save his friends, forcing him to choose between resentment and forgiveness. To escape from there, the old woman instructs him through a riddle to take bus 515. Sam understands and sits at the fake bus stop installed in the nursing home hallway. At exactly 5:15 p.m., a nurse unlocks one of the restricted doors. In the short interval that the passage is open, he escapes. From the hall, Judy and Renee witness Sam's escape and begin to plot the theft of an access card to get out too. Out of sight in the basement, Wally watches paralyzed as Blaine eliminates Dr. Mansour in cold blood for refusing to start the transfusion, telling a cold story about his own wife's suffering with polio. The leader demands that Wally begin the treatment immediately. Through the escape corridors, a piercing scream from the mother echoes through Sam's mind. The sonic impact makes him pass out. The now-recovered director reaches him and starts dragging him back to captivity. Before it's too late, Renee and Judy appear in the corridor and knock out the attacker forcefully, saving their friend. At the reception, Claire comes in like a hurricane, demanding her father's release, finally aware of the truth. The noise made by Renee and Judy triggers the security alarms. Under a total lockdown alert, Paz advances with a van and rescues the entire group. Renee states that the next step is to put an end to the monster, but Sam cuts her off firmly, declaring the new mission. They're going to save it. Meanwhile, inside the underground complex, Wally approaches the mother and silently tells her it's time to go. Sam gathers the group and explains the urgent need to save the mother. The conversation is interrupted by a call from Wally to Renee, letting her know he took a drastic measure and kidnapped the creature. Without hesitation, the group turns the car around and speeds back to the community center. In the underground lab, Annalise explodes with fury at Blaine for losing the test subject, but he promises to get it back at any cost. Meanwhile, Wally pushes the mother's wheelchair, disguised under a shawl and a large hat, making his way through the crowd celebrating the 75th anniversary in the square. He manages to pass unnoticed and takes the creature to the meeting point. At the square, Blaine takes the stage for the grand commemorative speech, but his tone changes and he begins to ramble bitterly about aging and the end of things. In the hideout, the group discusses the next step. Fascinated by the discovery, Wally insists on using the creature's blood to cure diseases and cheat death. However, the mother communicates telepathically with Sam, revealing her only desire. She wants her life to come to an end. The creature explains that her pups are prepared for the moment and that she needs to reach the tree in the basement. Renee warns the doctor that immortality would turn them into the same freaks they're fighting. Pressured, Wally finally gives in. By consensus, the group decides to use the tunnels under the oven in Sam's house to escort the creature to the tree. The plan suffers a setback when Blaine and his henchmen invade the place. To buy time, Judy and Art stay behind and block the passage while the others go down. Upstairs, Blaine severely wounds Judy to force Art to talk. Desperate at seeing his wife bleeding, the old man gives in and reveals the escape route. Once in the basement, the mother points to her pup's cells, wanting to rescue them. Paz and Renee take on the mission of freeing them while the rest of the team heads toward the cave. In captivity, they find the cages, but run into a problem: the missing key for the control panel. At that moment, Hank emerges from the shadows. The former security guard survived the fall from the cliff, but his body is burned and destroyed. Acting cautiously, Renee smooth-talks him and convinces him to take revenge on Blaine by helping them escape. Driven by resentment, Hank hands the master key over to the two. Activating massive metal doors through the control system, Blaine and Annalise block the underground passages and corner Sam and the others. With no way out, the group takes the only remaining route that leads them back to his house. Surrounded, they decide to make their stand right there. Claire tells her father that she fixed the flaw in the particle accelerator made with the cathode TVs, turning it into a functional weapon. When Blaine and his henchmen arrive, Wally throws the door wide open. The accelerator is activated and the radiation hits the intruder's head on. Annalise collapses in a blinding beam of light while Blaine falls motionless to the ground. With the initial threat contained, the attention turns to Judy, who is bleeding profusely. The magnetic pulse from the TVs fried everyone's cell phones, making it impossible to call for help. Wally examines her and sorrowfully informs them that her time is up. Art approaches, and the two reminisce about the good times until she closes her eyes. The morning is broken when the mother crawls over to her and places the palm of her hand over the wound, healing it instantly. Judy wakes up with a start. Exhausted, the creature asks Sam to take her to the cave, but demands that he go alone. After saying goodbye to Claire and his friends, he guides the mother through the depths. Upon reaching the cave, they discover that Blaine had survived the radiation and brutally attacks Sam. During the fight, the old man realizes the mother's intention to overload herself with energy. He pins the villain to the ground with his own body weight and yells for the creature to go ahead. She gathers the pups around her and emits a devastating shockwave. The blast knocks out Sam's mind. He wakes up inside his most painful memory with Lily, but this time everything feels intensely real. His wife smiles, explaining that this was the mother's way of saying thank you, and the two share one last dance. Sam wakes up back in the cave, surrounded by the remains of Blaine and the creature. Renee and Paz arrive at the scene and help him up. Looking at the scene, he murmurs that she finally found peace. Days later, the group reunites, healthy and free from the nightmare. Sam, Claire, and their friends have dinner together in a light-hearted mood. Paz and Renee celebrate a planned trip to Europe, while Judy and Art enjoy their second chance. When Sam goes to the bathroom to tend to a bandage on his head, his reflection flickers and suffers a visual glitch.